Welcome back to Spot Radio. I'm your host, Matt Danley, and we are getting ready to get into the AFC playoff situation here. We got Luke Paglas and we got Jake Mackey back with us again, and we are going to go through our 1 through 6 in here as we did with the NFC and see what everybody thinks. We have a 4 and 5 matchup with the Colts and Bengals. That's Saturday at 1:05. I'm sorry, Sunday at 1:05, and then we have a Steelers Ravens. They're set up for Saturday at 8:15 at night. I'm going to start with Luke. Luke, what are your thoughts on? We'll start with the Colts and Bengals there. That seems to be the easiest one.
Colts and Bengals. Obviously you have two of the better young quarterbacks in the game between Andrew Luck and Andy Dalton. Um, Both have high SEC draft pick running backs, Jeremy Hill, Trent Richardson. You could really just keep going down the line. There's a lot of comparisons to be made between these two teams. But for me, Andrew Luck, borderline elite play this season. He's got a great supporting cast around him. T.Y. Hilton has been absolutely on fire all year. If Vontae Davis can get up early on A.J. Green, shut him down, I think Colts take this one easily. I just do not trust Andy Dalton in the playoffs.
Yeah, this is where I think Andy checks out. To be quite honest with you, and I think Andrew takes this one without any problem. I don't see the Colts having much trouble with the Bengals. They're talking about this isn't the Bengals from Week 7, but it is still the Bengals, and it does. And Andy Dalton still is their quarterback, and he still can't keep his tunnel vision from throwing anywhere besides AJ Green. I don't see them giving the Colts much of anything, but the Colts have been playing to their down to everybody's level on their opponents, and I don't think that they're gonna exactly run away with this one. Jake, you have similar thoughts on that?
Yeah. The Colts, they certainly haven't been on their A game of the past month. And the Bengals coming in, they had that impressive win on Monday night last week against the Broncos. They fall short against the Steelers. So you think they're coming in with that defense could probably get to Andrew Luck a little bit, but I don't think so. It's the Bengals. It's Marvin Lewis. It's the playoffs. So that means they're going to come up short, obviously. Andy Dalton, he doesn't have it in him. Andrew Luck, he's been proven he's been good at home. Uh, Great coaching. Their defense can handle that Bengals offense. Nothing special, kind of one-dimensional. Shut down Jeremy Hill. Get rid of Gio Bernard. Take away A.J. Green. Game's pretty much over. I think the Colts will win this one fairly easily.
I'd have to agree with you on that one. I just don't think that there's going to be much that they can do. So we all agree Colts will take the Bengals, and that'll get us to the Steelers and the Ravens. This one, I think, has a serious chance to be slightly more interesting. Luke, what do you think about that? I think this could be possibly a field goal at the end to win it. You've got a little more than just two teams playing in a playoff game. You've got the playoffs, plus you've got a divisional matchup, and a heated one at that. Where do you go with this one?
Boy, there are not many things on this earth that I love as much as a Steelers-Ravens playoff game. The two teams, even in the regular season, they come in fired up, they're ready to play, and they go at it. If you look at them this season, obviously there was the one game in which Terrell Suggs came in late. There were a lot of fistfights going on all over the field, getting chippy. These two teams play with attitude. Now, if you want to talk about the matchups, Big Ben, he's been absolutely incredible this season. And with Le'Veon Bell next to him, they've just been unstoppable with Antonio Brown on the field. Mm-hmm. Now, if Le'Veon Bell is unable to go, they are in deep trouble because he allows them to get their offense rolling. They can't get any kind of semblance of the offense that they want to run without him on the field. They have signed Ben Tate, but this is his third NFL team this season, so we'll see how that turns out. On the other side of the ball, Justin Forsett has been running with authority. it's hard to argue with the law firm of Steve Smith and Torrey Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I could go either way. It's going to be a last-second field goal at the end. I'm actually going to go with a bit of an upset and take the Ravens, just because I'm no fan of Flacco, but that Pittsburgh secondary, I just don't see them holding up any kind of performance like this long term.
Yeah, that's good enough for me. Jake, where you out on that?
Yeah, I'm excited for this game big time. I mean, it's gonna be one of those old school NFL playoff rivalry games. Both teams got a lot of attitude. Uh, you think Steelers Ravens, you're gonna think, oh, defensive struggle, defensive battle. I mean, but the Steelers just don't. They're not. The defense isn't what it used to be. I mean, I think times are kind of caught up with the Dick LeBeau defense. Team is starting to come around to it. They're an offensive team. I think it's really going to come down to Le'Veon Bell's health situation because he makes that offense go. I mean, if he's not in there, you can devote more focus to Antonio Brown, take away what they do. So as much as I want to say Steelers because I feel like they can exploit that Ravens defense, and I just don't have that much faith in Joe Flacco because they haven't impressed me this year. They haven't really beaten any quality opponents. I think I'm going to go with the Ravens in this one because I think they can slow down that Steelers offense with that front seven. In the NFL playoffs, a front seven wins, and that group has some experience with Haloti Ngata, Terrell Suggs, Dumervil. Not so much in the secondary, but if you can slow down the passing game, I think the Ravens will take this one by a field goal and get on the road to Foxborough.
You think Haloti Ngata is as effective after coming off of his suspension?
I do. I feel like the rest for a guy in his age, he'll be able to come in. He's been playoff ready before. He certainly had his experience. And, yeah, I think he can be effective.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't have any faith in Flacco whatsoever. I think the games that he does perform almost seem like a fluke at times, even if it is for a 2 or 3 or 4 game stretch at a time. I just never can seem to give the guy the credit that a lot of people do. I like the Steelers in this because I just think the Steelers are tougher. I think the Ravens have been softened up several times throughout the season. They played like crap last week against Cleveland. All they had to do was win. There was a 3-3 game at halftime, something like that, late in the second. And I think they're just too soft. I think this game in Pittsburgh is just going to be too much for the Ravens and Joe Flacco to handle. I'm pretty sure that Big Ben is going to take care of them. So you guys both had the Ravens on this one, and I've got the Steelers on this one. So let's go both. Let's go both matchups. Let's say the Steelers win. They will meet the Broncos, the number 2 seed, and that'll be in Denver. Where do you see this one going, Jake? If this were to be the matchup, Steelers and Denver.
Steelers in Denver, provided that Le'Veon Bell is playing. I'm gonna have to go with the Steelers in this one because right now I know Luke's getting a little angry over there, but the Broncos. It just comes down to I respect the Broncos a lot. I mean, I think they're a great team. They got good front seven, which wins games in the playoffs. But just it's sad to see Peyton Manning right now with the decline of his game, and I think it's obvious they suffered injury in that St. Louis game back in November or whatever it was. But I just don't think you can't go into a Peyton Manning-led team that's an offensive juggernaut like they are. Their run game's been good with C.J. Anderson, but when it comes into the playoffs, I don't think they're gonna. I think they'll get shut down. I mean, if you can't score points, Peyton Manning. If it's cold out there, Peyton Manning, I just don't see him coming out with the win. I think the Steelers would upset them out there. I think Big Ben can exploit that defense too.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't a shot. I love just watching Luke's face over there while you're talking. Luke, go ahead. What do you got on this one?
Sorry, I've just been entertained over here. I will completely agree. I've been one of the first to say that Peyton Manning is declining. He has not been himself, but where we do see, I think, a lot of hope for the Broncos to win this game is the resurgence of C.J. Anderson. Over the past 4 weeks, he's notched 7 touchdowns. He's had 849 yards this season, despite having minimal impact in 6 of the games. So he's really come on strong, and what's good about that for the Broncos is that he's fresh legs. He hasn't been running all season. He's still relatively rested, and he's been going along at a great clip. On the other side of the ball, Denver is allowing only 79.8 yards per game against the run. That's second best in the NFL behind the Detroit Lions defense. And in the secondary, Chris Harris just got paid a big-time new contract. Aqib Talib has also been good. I just think I'm not going to say Peyton Manning is going to win them this game because I don't think he can, but I should mention the pass rush as well as of Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware has been able to get home 24 times this season, and against Big Ben they should be able to get him a couple times.
Right. In this scenario, the Broncos would play the Steelers, which we've talked about, and then the Pats would play the Colts, with all of us agreeing that the Colts would beat the Bengals. The Steelers have to go into Denver. I think you get the Steelers on the back end of the divisional fight, and maybe softened up a little bit themselves, a little beat up. The Broncos will have that extra week to rest. I think that gives Peyton Manning's arm another week. And I think really regardless of the temperature or the conditions in Denver, Manning still manages to play well in Denver outside. So I'm going to give this one to the Broncos. I think that I don't think that they can necessarily match up man for man with the Steelers, but I think that that extra week off that they're going to get is going to send them over, and I think the Pittsburgh goes in there just a little beat up from their game with the Ravens, and the Broncos win that one. And like I said, in this one, the Colts would go to New England, and I'm not even going to start this. I'm going to let you go, Jake. You can be a homer before I do.
All right. Well, I think we all watched that Sunday night game back in Week 11, and I think it would be a little different coming to Foxborough. This Patriots team's had 2 weeks rest. The thing that scares me about the Patriots in playoffs, I think their offensive line right now is obviously an issue, and you bring a good front seven in, that's always been able to hurt the Patriots in the playoffs. But I don't see the Colts doing that. I don't think they have that front seven to get after Brady. Now, the past 2 meetings, the Patriots have ran the ball all over the Colts. I'm not saying they're going to run for 200 yards again on the Colts because they're probably going to be expecting that, but they could probably get a solid run game going there. But when it comes down to it, Belichick, they have owned Andrew Luck in the 3 meetings. He's put up some good numbers, but Belichick has schemed. He's kept them in the pocket, and the Patriots, they've never had a defense like this since 2004 when they had Richard Seymour, Tay Bruschi, Mike Vrabel. They have playmakers back there. They got playmakers. Jamie Collins is really starting to come onto the scene, and he's peaking at the right time. They got the secondary, I think, that can shut down those receivers. Then that makes the Colts real one-dimensional, and Andrew Luck's really going to have to try and beat them. And I think the Patriots' offense will make plays on that defense. I don't think Sergio Brown will be able to put straps on Gronkowski in this game, like he said he did in the last game. But yeah, I think the Patriots. I think the Colts would keep it close, but I think the Patriots would come away in the second half and win this one by about 10 points to 2 touchdowns.
That's fair enough. I'll let you go, Luke.
Oh boy, I'm stepping into the middle again. I'm actually going to have to side with Jake this time. I love Andrew Luck. I think he's a fantastic player, but what it comes down to for me is effectively the Colts are at this point more or less one-dimensional. I don't think Trent Richardson's going to make anything of himself. I do like Boom Haran, but for him to go up against that just vicious Patriots front seven, it's going to be asking a lot. So they're going to have to put it on Luck to win that game. He's capable of it, absolutely, but against a secondary like that, it's going to be really challenging. And on the other side of the ball, they're just going to have to slow down Brady. So don't get me wrong. I think it'll be a good game. I just don't think Chuck Pagano is capable of coaching a game the way he needs to pull this one out.
I can't disagree. I can't punch myself for being a homer. Because I'm not going to be. I looking at this objectively, the Colts coaching staff has led themselves to being one-dimensional. They haven't become one-dimensional because they were forced to be. They became one-dimensional because that's what they wanted to be. They wanted to go from one extreme to the other. Last year, they go from attempting to run the ball down people's throats when they're not physically able and they don't have the personnel to do it, to this year, to starting out and acting like they were going to be balanced, to more of 65-35, 60-40 spread between pass and run, and they're just not doing it. They're increasing their percentages in the passing game, which makes them one-dimensional. The running game has been stagnant, if not almost non-existent, in the past several weeks. Trent Richardson is a guy who needs to touch the ball 5 times a game, and they all need to be screen passes, or he needs to be coming out of the backfield off of a chip block. Herron gives them that big play opportunity. He doesn't necessarily give them the consistent big play ability, if that makes any sense at all. I think the pass rush is going to be much better with Newsome running in and out. He's come along this year. He's done a nice job at his rush linebacker, and Eric Walden's been getting himself in the mix as well. If I'm going in the defense, I think that they basically have no chance to stop the Patriots. I think if they're playing the Patriots in Foxborough, they've got to keep them under 3 scores, and it's just not going to happen. I don't think that the Colts running game can take them into the third quarter with a 1-score differential, and I don't think that their passing game can be consistent enough. Look, Luck is a great talent, a great quarterback. I feel extremely lucky to be a Colts fan with him as my quarterback. But here's the thing. You can simply watch the guy, and it's almost like it's blasphemy if you're a Colts fan or just anybody really, and you try to pick on Luck in any way, shape, or form. The fact of the matter is anytime on his 3- and 5-step drops, he's not setting his feet. He's still on his heels. And, yes, that's a part because of the line that's letting everybody and their grandmother through to get a piece of Luck. Luck has been drilled the past several years, and he's going to keep getting drilled until the management and the front office decide that actually having the players in the game who can make an impact and keep Luck clean are going to play regardless of if they were drafted, undrafted, or if they were pulled off of a Baltimore's practice squad or just whatever. It really doesn't matter. The bottom line is there are too many things working against the Colts for that matchup in Foxborough. Bad run defense, especially the last time, and if there's anybody who can scheme to put another wrinkle in the running game like he did last time, put another tackle as a tight end for blocking, which was ideal, it's Belichick, and it'll happen again one way or another. We won't see it until about halftime and realize what he's doing, but it will already have been done most likely. I do think the Colts could keep it within 10, but it could be a field goal because of a last ditch effort by Luck to get the Colts close, but I think this is probably a 10-point game, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the line on it was 9.5 in Vegas when it comes down to it, just for that reason. But I can't give it to the Colts on this one. The Pats will definitely get this. Now, on the other side of that coin, we disagreed on the Steelers and Ravens game. You two had the Ravens, and I had the Steelers. If the Ravens win that game, it would set up a Ravens-Pats at New England and Colts and Broncos in Denver. Let's run through those possibilities as well. Pats and Ravens, Jake. What would do you think that Flacco? I know you don't trust him. If you were a Baltimore fan, you wouldn't trust him just the same. But does he strike any kind of fear in New England's defense at all?
No, because I think in the past Flacco has given the Patriots, he's given them troubles, but that was back when they didn't have a secondary. The last time he faced them in the playoffs, Aqib Talib goes down in the first quarter. Now they got Revis, they got Browner, McCourty, Collins, Chandler Jones, you name it, Dante Hightower. The offense for the Ravens doesn't really scare me at all. I think they could shut them down, keep them in the low teens to maybe even single digits. I don't know. But the thing about the John Harbaugh and Dean Pease, the former defensive coordinator for the Patriots, now the Ravens, 'cause he knows the Patriots. John Harbaugh has always schemed up a way to get after Tom Brady. That scares me in the playoff. That scares me about the Ravens. And that's a team that you might see some teams like Bengals or maybe even the Colts. They come into Foxborough. They're a little hesitant because it's such a tough place to play. The Ravens, they'll come in there. They won't be afraid. They'll come in there thinking they're going to win. They got T. Suggs, hates the Patriots, said it multiple times. That front seven, they can get after Tom Brady, and they can make Tom Brady see those goats come behind him, and that'll throw him off for the whole day.
And they have in the past, right?
Yeah, they have.
And in the playoffs as well.
Destroyed the Patriots in 2009, which was a pretty weak Patriots team. Kicked the crap out of them in the second half in 2012. And Billy Cundiff missed a field goal in 2011. I think the Patriots got outplayed that day, made the plays, but I think the Ravens outplayed them. Mm-hmm. But I don't think this is the same Ravens team. I think their defense will hold up. They can get to Tom Brady, but their secondary doesn't have Ed Reed. I think they could get Gronk involved. They didn't have Gronk in the last AFC Championship. The Patriots beat the Ravens last year with Matthew Mulligan and Austin Collie 41-7 in Baltimore, and I think that Baltimore team was probably better than this one. So I think the Ravens will play the Patriots tough because they're just an experienced playoff team, but I think the Patriots defense would finally show up against the Ravens and beat them by probably about a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, Lucas? A possible 1-6 matchup if the Ravens were to beat the Steelers?
I think, first of all, that if there's one team in the playoffs that can really take down the Patriots in Foxborough, it's got to be the Ravens. Mm-hmm. They just match up so perfectly against that team. And if there's going to be a win, it's going to be that one. Now, 5 minutes ago, I would have picked the Ravens. I'm going back and looking through box scores here, like from the last from the 3 times that Joe Flacco has has played the Patriots in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. He's 2-1 against them. I'm just going to read you through briefly the box scores of who scored for the Ravens. Ray Rice, we all know he's suspended, or he was suspended, not with the team. Dennis Pitta is on IR, Anquan Bolden. Billy Cundiff, Torrey Smith is on the team. Ray Rice, Lauren McLean, and Willis McGahee. Of those players, only one is still on the team. That's Torrey Smith. And those players that Joe Flacco has relied on in the past to get him the win, they just aren't there anymore. So for that reason, that's going to be huge. I love Justin Forsett. I love what he's doing right now. Like I said 5 minutes ago, I would have picked the Ravens, but Flacco just doesn't have what he once did. Got to go to the Patriots.
Yeah, I would still pick the Patriots in that match. But you know who I really liked and probably am going to continue to like just this year is rookie Mosley. That game in Indy, when my wife and I actually went to that, and I had a right down the tunnel look at Luck getting just decleated by Mosley on a drop back where Jonathan Harrison did a little Olay, and he went right up the middle. It was a beautiful design. It just was an ugly outcome. I mean, Luck was literally taken off his feet. That kid is in every play, and when he's not, he's on somebody's heels of being in the play. That kid is going to be something special, and whether he does it this year or next year, he's going to be something that those Ravens can build around. He's going to be another a big-time contributor in the middle at linebacker, and he's going to probably be somebody that they try to continue to mount stuff on when it gets down in the next several years. So then we get Colts-Broncos. Colts at Denver. And I'm going to leave you out of this one, Luke, for a second, and we'll go to Jake for this one again. We'll let you pull the strings on this one last. Go ahead, Jake. What do you got on this one if the Colts were to travel to Denver?
This is an interesting one because I think the Colts, they could go to Denver and win, but I don't think they will. They've played pretty decent against the Broncos in the past. They've hung around with them. The Broncos kind of handled them pretty easily back in September, but that was a completely different Broncos team, much more firepower. The key to beating Peyton Manning in the playoffs, you gotta get after him, and you gotta get pressure in his face, especially with his ailing shoulder, neck, whatever it is now. But I don't think the Colts can do that. I think Peyton Manning could have a game somewhat what he has left and take advantage of the Colts secondary, but I don't think they'd have to do that either. I think they could go to the run game that's been so successful in the past few weeks, because as a Patriots fan, I know that Colts run defense is not impressive. Uh,
It
Andrew
never
Luck,
is.
no, Andrew Luck could probably make some plays against that Broncos defense, but he'll get pressured. That Colts, I'm sorry, that Broncos front seven is legit. Von Miller can take over games. Terrence Knighton, I like him a lot as a player. He can get in there. So I think the Colts would have some troubles in that game. I think they'd hang around, but I take the Broncos by 10 points in this one.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to give my 2 cents on this one, then I'm going to let Luke go in on. If I have to choose, this is the road that I want for the Colts to travel in the playoffs. I want the Ravens to beat the Steelers. I want the Colts to beat the Bengals, and I want the Colts to have to go to Denver for a couple reasons. The Colts have already played in Denver this year. So, granted, different time of year. It's just that revisiting thing. You know, typically when somebody has to go do things a second time, especially if they were negative the first time, they typically come out a little smoother the second go around. Peyton has looked less of himself the past several weeks. I don't trust C.J. Anderson, although he has come a long way in the running game. He's done a good job for them. But the only thing that scares me about Denver, and this is crazy saying this with Peyton Manning on the team, but the only thing about Denver that scares me in any way, shape, or form is what Jake just touched on, is their outside rush. And you know what? Quite honestly, their stunts that they'll throw through the middle. I'm not worried about Freeman and our other inside linebackers or our outside backers covering in space, covering in the flats against this Denver team. Julius Thomas has looked extremely lazy lately. I'm not exactly sure what that's about, but he's still one of my favorite guys. But he just doesn't look like himself. Now, I think that, on the other hand, when you look at the Colts tight end situation, you've got Dwayne Allen, and you've got his blocking ability in there. And if they go back up to Denver, I can promise you 2 things. The first thing is they are going to bring that unbalanced line back that they had so much effectiveness with against Philadelphia in week 2. They're going to bring that back in Denver, and they're going to run the ball right down their gut. And now whether it gets them very far or not, I don't know. But if they're in Denver, that is what they'll bring back. And they may only bring it back for 25, 30 runs total, I mean, in the running game for the day. But if they can get 10 to 12 out of those unbalanced lines, that could be an advantage for the Colts. As Jake touched on just moments ago, they don't have the firepower that they had. They're not the Broncos are not the same team that the Colts played in week 1, and the Colts aren't the same team. I think when you take Andrew Luck in that kind of an environment, he's already played Peyton twice in 3 years, and he's beaten him once in Indy and was beaten in Denver. I think the second time is the charm for Luck when he goes into Denver. I think that they have a much better chance of taking out the Broncos as opposed to the Pats. And now I'll push that on to you, Lucas. I rambled a bit, but it's your turn.
All right. I am looking forward to this matchup if it does come around. You know, the week 1 is a season away for both teams. So much so that the Broncos got 4 touchdowns between Monte Ball and Julius Thomas. Now Monte Ball is on IR, and Julius Thomas has not scored since week 10. So both teams have kind of undergone a shift in identity, I think, in a lot of ways. And obviously the resurgence of C.J. Anderson has really been impressive this year. He's averaging about 4.7 yards a carry. So he's doing well. Denver, that defense is, for the first time in a long time, it seems like that defense is the defense. And by that, what I mean is the defense is what's predominant about this team. With Manning not looking the way he is, or the way he has been, he's been looking a little down. It's been on the defense to pick things up, and they've done very well so far in that regard. Basically, what it comes down to for me is the Broncos are one of two teams this season that are 8-0 at home. The other are the Green Bay Packers. They have not lost at home this season, and that pass rush for me, they say defense wins championships. With the way the Broncos front seven has been able to just take over a game, particularly if they're able to get linebacker Brandon Marshall back from injury, that's going to go a long way to winning them this game.
I wouldn't disagree necessarily with either view of that game because it could likely go. It really could be a coin flip at the end of the game. You've got basically one comeback master with the younger of the two comeback masters. That would be a pretty awesome game to see come down to 3 points. To be honest with you, either way. So in the first setup, we would have the Pats meeting. I believe we all agreed on the Broncos over the Steelers in the first set. Is that right? So we would have Pats and Broncos, and it would be in New England if that were to be the AFC Championship. Jake, what would you go in on that one?
Yeah. So this is a game obviously I would be waiting for since last January when I watched the Patriots get absolutely just destroyed by the Broncos in Denver. And all season I've been wanting to see this because I knew after I went to that game on November 2nd in Foxborough, I saw the Patriots just manhandle the Broncos, and I knew from that point on that the AFC Championship would most likely come down Patriots Broncos again, but this time it'd be in Foxborough, which is just such a difference because I'm sure, as you both know, it's not Peyton Manning's favorite place to play.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny when Luke touched upon it that a Brady versus Manning game now. They're both defensive teams. I mean, the Patriots have struggled on. I mean, they're one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL, but of late their offense has sputtered. But their defense has dominated. You could say the same thing about the Broncos. The Broncos do somewhat scare me because they have that Von Miller and Terrence Knighton. I don't know so much about DeMarcus Ware, but they have Von Miller, Terrence Knighton. They can take over games, just those two, especially against a weak Patriots offensive line with Nate Solder banged up. Brian Stork, they all held their own in that Week 9 matchup, but in the playoffs it's a different animal. I do think that Patriots offense will score points based on the fact that Tom Brady absolutely owns Jack Del Rio. Go look at the numbers. Take away that AFC Championship last year, like I said, where his three receivers all under 6 feet tall: Edelman, Cauley, Amendola. Then he had Matthew Mulligan at tight end. He was throwing deep to Matthew Slater. They just went into that game with zero offensive firepower. This year, completely different story. You got LaFell, you got Edelman, Gronk. I don't know why I didn't say that first. You got Gronk, who's just they haven't had that in the playoffs, and that's something I think the Patriots can take advantage of in that Broncos secondary, which I think can hold their own. I haven't seen Aqib Talib really in the playoffs because he always gets hurt in the playoffs, so I don't know what he'll do. But I think the Patriots will put up points on that Broncos offense. I mean, my bad, the Broncos defense. I think the Broncos offense will be able to score their points in the first half when the Patriots defense typically comes out a little slow, but they'll adjust. Peyton Manning will go back to his Foxborough ways, and I think it'll tend to look a little more like last year's AFC Championship, except role reversal where the Patriots are coming out on top by, I don't want to say 2 touchdowns because I have too much respect for Peyton Manning. I'll say the Patriots win by a touchdown.
Where are you at on that, Luke? That's what we would come to in the AFC Championship game in either direction, apparently, because we've all pretty much agreed on Pats and Broncos. Where do you go on that one?
I want to say, in my heart of hearts, I want to say the Broncos take this one. Obviously, in a battle of 1 against 2 seeds, it's going to be a good game. There's so many things to look at in this matchup. Julius Thomas has not been himself. On the other side of the ball, you got Jamie Collins, who should be able to shut him down effectively. What it's going to come down to on that side of the ball, can the Broncos offensive line, who they've been struggling as of late. Can they keep manning upright, and can he deliver the ball to Sanders, to Demaryius Thomas down the field? Now, on the other side, on the flip side, effectively, I think Chris Harris matches up very well on Julian Edelman if the Broncos choose to go that way. What it's going to come down to is, can they stop Gronk? Because if they can't, he's going to be open up the seam every time. And, going back to the last matchup, they had 7th-round rookie Corey Nelson, the linebacker, playing on Gronk, and he was absolutely getting manhandled. It was effectively the last time he saw any number of snaps this season. So it's going to come down to coaching, and I just have more belief in Coach Belichick than I do in Coach Fox.
I tend to believe that this one would come down more to special teams, similar to the way the last game, not that it came down to it, but the last game got out of hand because of special teams. And Julian Edelman, if my memory serves me right, that I don't think that we can arrive at any other real explanation. I don't want to say that I don't trust Fox, but when you get into the Belichick mind games and so on and so forth, and what he brings to the table, when he has a weakness, he certainly is a shark. He smells blood in the water, and I think that would be difficult to go to. And I'll say this: if in Foxborough, if Peyton Manning can go without throwing a pick, then I think it's a coin toss. But if he has more than one pick, then I think the Pats beat him by 10. And it's just going to come down to that game, because if he has one pick, he's going to have more than one pick. He's either going to have to go spotless, or he's going to end up throwing 3. And he may still throw for 300 yards, but he's going to have 3 picks because he's going to have to try to come back. And I just think that his deep ball is somewhat non-existent with the pressure he's been under lately. Not so much because of his arm, but just simply because he doesn't have the time to get back and release. So basically, we have the Pats winning the AFC, and I think that's probably a pretty good pick. Which, if you watched our NFC show, you saw that we came up with Seattle coming out of the NFC. That would set up a New England and Seattle Super Bowl, and this is basically what everybody is guessing it would be. Jake, I'm going to leave you out of this for just a second, and I'm going to go to Luke, and we're going to talk about the Super Bowl real fast and try to keep this under the next 5 minutes or so. And then we'll get out of here. Luke, what would you have on the Super Bowl? You got Seattle and New England on a neutral field.
So for that would make it the second consecutive year that the 2 number 1 seeds have met up in the Super Bowl. What it comes down to for me is both teams are dominated by their defense right now, and obviously with Seattle, that's been a long time thing, going back a couple years, especially with the kind of surgence of the Legions of Boom working their magic up in Washington. I think they match up well with New England on their defensive side. They definitely have the tools to shut down Gronk, shut down Edelman. They can get up on the line, get big, get physical, and really make things happen that way. Where I think it's going to be interesting is the other side of the ball. Marshawn Lynch is going to have to do what he does, and I do like Paul Richardson, the speedy rookie out of Colorado. I've watched him all throughout his college career. They're my alma mater, so I can say that he does have the ability to absolutely take a game over. If they can get him the ball early and often against that Patriots defense, then they'll get the win, but otherwise I just like the steady presence of Brady to win it. So I'm going to hedge my bet and say it could go absolutely either way.
What do you think about that, Jake? Are you in line to say that the Patriots could go in and beat Seattle on a neutral field?
I do think they can beat him. This scares the crap out of me because Seattle.
Let me ask you this specifically, game plan wise. What would New England have to do to beat Seattle?
On defense, I think the Patriots they can handle the Seahawks offense. I don't typically like the way Belichick plays against mobile quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers, he had all sorts of problems. Luck gave him issues in Indy Week 11, but I don't think Wilson's as good as Luck or Rodgers. I think the Patriots they can shut down running backs. They got the front seven the way they've been playing lately. They can shut down running backs, so they'll take care of Marshawn Lynch, take care of Richardson. The Seahawks don't have like a standout receiver. They don't have that dominant force. So I think you drop back Revis, Browner in zone coverage, McCoy over the top. They'll take care of their offense. It's on the Patriots offense and the Seahawks defense that just, like I said earlier, they physically punish you. They will. I think they'll manhandle the Patriots offensive line, and that's been what's killed the Patriots in the Super Bowls against the Giants. I think they could get after Brady, get in his head. Secondary-wise, you could say the same thing about the Patriots. They don't have that receiver that could take over a game, but they do have Gronk, and I don't see anybody that really matches up against Gronk. They have Earl Thomas, best safety in the NFL. I still don't think he can completely contain him. I think this would be one of the more low-scoring Super Bowls you would ever see, and I think it would come down to a special teams play, like a Julian Edelman punt return, block field goal. The Patriots done that 4 times. I just don't think Tom Brady, Bill Belichick would lose a 3rd Super Bowl. It's a little bit of homerism, but I think I take Belichick over Carroll. I'll take Patriots in this one by just a little bit. It'll be a classic.
You think the guy that we were talking about earlier, Rob Ninkovich, in my opinion, he would have to have that kind of a stud game. You agree or disagree?
Oh, I agree. If they're doing that read option with Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson, I think he'd have to have a big game. And if anyone's gonna step up to the challenge, it's gonna be Rob Ninkovich. He's whenever there's a need to be a big play, you expect Rob Ninkovich to step up to the plate, and I think he would make those plays in that game. But I was thinking in my head the other day, I'm thinking real far ahead here into the Super Bowl, I would take Dante Hightower as my MVP, but it's a little far ahead for right now. But he would have a big game in that one.
Yeah, that's right. Then they'd have to, to take that running ability away from Seattle. This one to me would be as much of and I like coin flips apparently because this one is another one. Although I just see Seattle given Tom Brady. I think you have Wilson's offensive line is not the greatest. I think the Pats would get on Wilson. I agree with Jake saying that this would be a low-scoring game, and I mean 17-13, maybe something like that, something ridiculous for these two teams. I mean, they still, Seattle doesn't have a great offense, but they're still going to put up 20 points typically every game, even against a worthy opponent. I would have to go Seattle in this one, though, and I think that's only because Seattle turns their turnovers directly into points more often than New England's, at least in memory. I don't have a number to support that, but I'm going to go off of what I've seen this year. The Pats will get their turnovers, and they will get some points indirectly off of their turnovers, but Seattle seems to take everything to the freaking end zone as it turns over. So I'm going to say that Seattle would beat the Pats in the Super Bowl, although I truly don't believe that I'm going to see either one of those two teams in the Super Bowl this year. I think the parity is going to come through in the playoffs, and I think we're going to see probably a Pittsburgh and Green Bay Super Bowl. But any difference of opinion on that?
I didn't get a chance to touch on Green Bay, and I got clocked out in the NFC picture. I tend to agree with you, but I don't think Green Bay would get into the Super Bowl. I actually lost connection right before the Green Bay Dallas matchup. I think Dallas would beat Green Bay in Green Bay just because I'm not impressed by Aaron Rodgers' playoff performance. Minus that one Super Bowl run, he was 15-1, got manhandled by the Giants. Last year lost to 49ers. I think they'll lose at home to the Cowboys because I think they can go in there and put up points on that defense. And Pittsburgh, Go
ahead.
I don't think Pittsburgh could come to Foxborough and beat I actually forgot to mention earlier, I did pick Pittsburgh to beat Denver in that divisional game. And I don't think Pittsburgh could come to Foxborough because again, Tom Brady's numbers against that Pittsburgh defense. Dick LeBeau has been doing the same thing with his defense for 30 years. Patriots will game plan. They'll torch that Pittsburgh defense. So I tend to disagree with both of those.
Okay. Excellent. Well, gentlemen, again, thank you for being in here, and thank you for anybody who paid attention to our AFC playoff kickoff. I was here with Jake Mackey. He's a Patriots writer for ProFootballSpot.com. You can catch him on Twitter at Mackey_Jake, and Luke Paglas. He is our NFC West division manager for Pro Football Spot as well. And you can catch him at Luke Paglas on Twitter as well. Gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.